bar.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
All right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear. And today we've got Kevin Galerno, one of our hockey analysts behind the gear. I know Kev's been on a bunch of times. One of our skill development coaches, obviously here in London. And just for those, a little quick recap: the tornado in Europe. Now played college hockey, obviously a little bit of pro over in Europe, and now does a bunch of skill development stuff with our guys here in town and a bunch of the pros and juniors and stuff that come through London, which is great. But I wanted to chat a little bit today. We just had the NHL Draft that passed. It was that 01 birth year, and we've had the opportunity over the last bunch of years, to work with a bunch of those young guys. And is there anybody? I know there's only a couple from this area that went in that draft, but is there anybody out of those 2 or 3 guys that went? Is there anyone that kind of stands out to you that you look at and you're like, man, I kind of saw that a couple of years ago that he had a good shot of playing in the NHL?
Yeah, well, I think definitely Suzuki, obviously being probably the highest profile local guy. Well, not probably, he was the highest profile local guy, and
he's just the first overall OHL pick.
Yeah, no big deal. I mean, he's been on the radar. Yeah. No, you don't have to be much of a hockey guy to know that he was. Yeah. He had a good shot of going early this year, so it was good to see him go. It's funny how you say things though, and even the more time you spend in hockey, for me and doing this stuff, you're like, had a good shot of playing in the NHL. You're like, no, I had a good shot of getting drafted, and you can be a top 5 pick, and who's to say you have a good shot of playing in the NHL? Like it's such a crapshoot now, for sure. And he was a first rounder, which is awesome. And I have no doubt that he's going to continue to work hard and be there one day, but it's just sometimes you look at guys, and I know I've looked at guys, I'm sure you have, where you're like, that guy's not going to play in the NHL one day. 3 years later, you're like, holy crap, he is. And other guys are like, he's a shoo-in. And you know what I mean? And then you're like, what happened to him? Yeah, he's got a good AHL career. Maybe he's not playing anymore or whatever, but you're really putting yourself out on a limb nowadays if you say he's playing in the NHL for sure. But yeah, he stands out as a guy that has always been doing the right things and comes from a good bloodline with his brother. Yeah, he's seen him go through it. Yeah. So. Yeah.
And it's funny because if you look at, for those who don't know the Suzuki family, I mean, parents are awesome, hardworking parents. They do well, but not hockey parents per se, right? Like they played sports and stuff, but not, they weren't entrenched in hockey as kids or anything like that. And they have 2 boys that love the game, both get drafted in the first round. Yeah. I mean, when you talk about that, about the kids who make it, kids who don't make it, no matter what round, or if they are undrafted or drafted, and this could be the OHL, NHL, doesn't matter. But what are some of the things that separate some of those kids? Like when you think about it, why does a kid make it? Why does a kid not make it? Well, I think a lot of that has to do with, that hard work and how much they're willing to invest in the game, meaning, are they willing to get up in the morning and go to the gym? Are they willing to go to yoga? Are they willing to eat the right things? Are they going to do all those things to help them get to that? And every once in a while I get these outliers that are players that are unbelievable. They can do whatever they want, eat whatever they want, work out, don't work out, doesn't matter. They're just good. And that does happen. It's frustrating because sometimes kids see that and they're like, well, if John can do it, then I can do it. And really the recipe for most of the hockey players or basketball players, football players, whatever it is the same. It's
for sure
hard work, getting around the right people, towing the right way, pick your spots on your parties and what you're doing, and make sure that you're kind of climbing that ladder step by step and hopefully not falling down any slides in the way.
And I totally agree. And I hate to say more so now, but I would think like when we were younger, it was almost like a rite of passage. You played, whatever you played in your small town, then you played AAA. And then after AAA, maybe you played major midget, but eventually you played junior. And after junior, maybe you just went on to college and then, or you went to pro. And nowadays it's so hard. Just because you played AAA doesn't mean you're going to play junior B or in the OHL. Just because you played in the OHL doesn't mean you're going to play pro or in the NHL. There's so many outside factors now, whether it's just social media or girls or whatever, parties, like you said, things that can get in the way. Even if you are tracking the right way, if you don't stay focused year in and year out, there's just so many, and some guys slip through, like they make it anyway, basically, or they're just so good, doesn't matter what they do. But just every year just seems like you can't let your foot off the pedal at all.
Yeah. At all. It's so true. And I think, when you look at that, the kids that are getting directed the right way, and that could be self-direction, that could be kids that are just self-motivated, or they have parents, or they have a trainer, they have a coach that's like, no, you got to work hard. Or kids gets drafted, and you hear this all the time, gets drafted to the OHL, or doesn't get drafted, but that year comes up, okay, now the hard work starts. Mm-hmm. And then they get drafted to the NHL, okay, now really the hard work starts, right? And as you get moving forward, it's kind of like every step. Then you make the NHL. Okay.
You were just talking about this with Bo a week or two ago, right? And he was saying like, he's a bona fide NHL player. I'm pretty sure he's not worried about,
probably not going to get
getting
sent down.
but
right.
he's still like, probably some days feels like he's still in the grind. Like, how's he going to get more ice time, and how's he going to get more specialty teams? And it was a really cool conversation you guys had about a fine line between being a competitor and wanting to be the go-to guy, but also wanting to have a good team, which means you got to have better players. And sometimes you got to take a role, but it's the same thing. He's still grinding it out here in the gym and on the ice every summer so that he can get back there and nobody's stealing his time.
No, for sure.
So
I think for a lot of the kids too, like the big thing that I've kind of been preaching this for a little bit with, especially the kids and the parents, is this doesn't start at 18, 19. This starts at 4 or 5 years old. You know what I mean? And you figure out how to work through problems and work through obstacles. And, I was just on a class trip today with my daughter. It was unbelievable. It was awesome. It was great. But it was really cool because there's a lot of parents there, a lot of groups of kids. And I had 5 girls with me, and they were awesome. They were great. They, but we're at a place called, Storybook Gardens. There's Playland, like just go crazy, right? Yeah. And I was just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 the whole time, just trying to peg out, because I didn't care about my own daughter. If I lost her, that's fine. But if I lost someone else's kid, that would suck. But it's really interesting to see some of these other parents and how they interact. Like I followed this one dad and is just kind of watching this one father and his son. And he had a group of 2 or 3 kids, and the dad literally just played with his kid the whole time. He's in the water park with the kid. He's on the big bouncy balloon that just kids are on. He's up there jumping like a kid. And I'm like, no problem being a kid, but you're at a class trip. Yeah. But you can see, like, I'm sure on a daily basis, this dad's doing everything for this young boy because he loves him, and I understand that. But what's that? Maybe this boy will be totally fine. I don't know. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, when you see these patterns start to develop at young ages, what's going to happen at 14, 15, So another girl just, mom, open. Like, just literally mom comes trotting over. Yeah. Okay. Opens up her sock or whatever it was. I'm like, please, thank you. Like, hey, like, sure. I'll try it on my own for, like, just, and I'm not saying I'm a perfect parent by any means, right. But I look at that stuff. I'm like, that almost makes me the other way. Like, Holly asked me to open up a jar or something, like figure it out, grab the knife, start knocking the top off it.
But it's a different scale. But what happened, you're talking about a kid on a school trip, a 7-year-old or whatever, but the 14-year-old that is a high-level hockey player, and they need to talk to their coach about why they didn't play in the third period.
Yeah, for sure.
Who's going to ask coach or call coach before practice, the next day? Who's doing it? Yeah. Are you doing it, mom and dad? Or is the kid saying, hey, why didn't I play? And the coach is saying, well, you took 2 stupid penalties in the second period, so you didn't play, and you're at an age where you know that doesn't work for the team, Yeah. So who's doing that? Well, the same person that's been getting his lunch opened up for him for 10 years probably isn't making that phone call.
Not a chance. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. Remember when I was young?
I'm a perfect parent too, because I don't have any kids
yet. You
have
a dog though. You have a dog. Your dog's unbelievably behaved, by the way. Yeah. I said.
Eventually, it gets tired and it sits.
Yeah. But even when I was a kid, and I don't know if I told the story before, but I played. So I didn't play AAA. I was in Bantam, and I was kind of later to the game, obviously, when I started playing. But in Bantam, I decided to try out AAA, and with the tryouts, back in the day, whatever. And I remember getting hit. Like, kind of just got the eventual captain of this team of our team hit me in center ice, blew me up. Like my cage flew off my helmet. Like, it was terrible. So I literally was on the bench, grabbed my stuff off the ice, get on the bench, and my dad ended up coming down and wiring this is old school. Now my dad would be probably in jail, but wired my cage back on, and I was back out there trying out or whatever. I ended up making the team as like the 10th forward. It was great team, a lot of fun. Moved up the lineup a little bit throughout the year, and then the next year I was captain of that team. And it was awesome. The one, we was double age group. So the older guys left and whatever. So I was a captain of that age group, and obviously had a great year. It was a lot of fun. And then the following year, going to minor midget, and I'm the last forward picked again. So I'm kind of like going through that same process I did the first year, and there's a double age group again, but I make that team as like the 10th forward. And then again, trying to work my way up the lineup a little bit throughout the year, work hard, trying to steal guys' jobs on the way. And then the following year, I'm the captain of that team. But I look back on that stuff, and the reason I'm telling the story is, when it doesn't come easy, when I wasn't the top player, I wasn't the best player on the team. I wasn't easy making teams. I had other guys my age that made the team no problem. They were really good and more skilled and stuff. But I think those little adversity, whatever you want to call it, like for me anyway, kind of helped formulate who I was going to be throughout my career of hockey. Right. And not that I played in the NHL, but I pushed hockey as far as I could, I feel. And I think having those little obstacles at a younger age, I was never worried about going to tryouts and working hard. I was never worried about going to camp and being prepared. I always made sure I was prepared. I always made sure, and obviously there's times where I could have done more maybe, right? And I think going through that process, I think, is huge for kids. And, whether that starts at young ages or older ages, but parents identifying it and saying, buddy, like, you weren't good enough to make that team. So how are you going to make that team next year? Or, hey, buddy, you made it as a 10th forward. That's amazing. Good for you. But are you happy with 10th forward? Yeah. Do you want to be the 9th forward? Yeah.
Or they're there going to the coach. Well, he was the captain last year. Why isn't he?
Right.
Well, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
I don't care what he was last year. He's the 10th forward this year.
Yeah.
So
no, exactly. Right. So I think like those are things I think that all these obstacles, all these things that guys and girls go through, I think help formulate who they are. And that's something that, as parents, I think we got to let that happen and help navigate. It sucks, man. Even as a parent, with young kids, it's hard to see them fail or see them mess up or see things not go right for them, but you need to let them go through that and battle through it. And I think hopefully, that'll help these kids as they get going on to jobs and being parents and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Kind of got off the rails there a little bit, but as far as the draft, looking back on, like, we had McMichaels go from the London Knights to Washington. So I saw him this week at development camp. There's another young guy who got drafted first round, gets traded, comes over to London, playing pretty well this year, kind of pops off a bit, has an unreal run, and then gets kind of pushed into that first round, ends up going in the first round in the NHL, which is unbelievable. But another young guy who plays the right way, plays both sides of the puck, works hard. There's a lot of little nuggets that are awesome there. Now, will that translate to an NHL career? I think so. But who knows, right? It's going to depend on what he does in the offseason, what he does the next 2 years as far as training, getting ready. Is he ready to play pro? All those little things that are going to come along the way, I think are going to be huge for guys like that.
And the NHL draft is so tough. Even if you look at the OHL draft and you're like, how many players get drafted in the OHL draft that play in the OHL? This many. And how many play that very first year after they get drafted? Even less, I would think. And this is a question. Yeah. The NHL draft has even less of the odds for getting drafted in the NHL and playing in the NHL are less than the OHL, and playing that next year. What is there normally, like 1, 2, 3 on a good year,
Yeah, there's not a lot. Out of that draft, let's say, I know, for instance, for Washington, with all the those draft picks from this year, I don't think, maybe one of them might see a couple NHL games, maybe, but probably not. Most of them are going to go back to junior. They're going to go back to their clubs. For this year, I don't think any of them will see games this year. The one player, Leeson from out west, he played in Prince Albert. I don't know if you heard about this young guy got drafted in the second round. Unbelievable story though. Kind of came to hockey, was pretty good. It was okay, right? Obviously got drafted to WHL, gets undrafted into NHL drafts. So gets passed up in 2 NHL drafts, has a good year, ends up making the World Junior team, and then gets drafted in the second round, as a 20-year-old, going into his OA year, which is crazy. Pretty much most people would have been like, but then when you kind of peel back the layers of that, what happened was he kind of had a good year, went to PA, was a good team, gave him an opportunity, started playing a little bit more. So got traded from Tri-City where he got drafted. Didn't get a lot of opportunity. They had a good team, gets traded, gets opportunity, starts to play, and then starts to actually train more hockey wise and gets power, works on skating and skills and starts to get quite a bit better and has an unbelievable year this year. And all this stuff happens for him with the World Juniors. And then, gets drafted, which is crazy how old he was, but he was talked about as one of the steals of the draft. He was in Washington. I got a chance to see him. He's awesome, man. Good,
probably a good kid.
Great kid. Yeah. Really good kid. Cool story, obviously. And that kind of follows him around, but it's still a pretty cool story, even for young kids out there that maybe don't get drafted in that, or don't get drafted at all, or don't get drafted in that first round or that first go or that second, year that they're able to get drafted. Stick with it. There's other ways to get to where you want to go. And if you're willing to work hard and put some time in, and again, I always say this, but get around the right people, there's tons of opportunity for you to reach that goal or try to, have other attempts at doing what you want to do. And I think that's the biggest kind of takeaway for a lot of this stuff. You know what I mean? Another young guy is Millman. So Mason Millman, D-man, who's, probably a little bit, I don't want to say undersized, but slight. He's not a big guy and hasn't filled out yet, but, he ends up getting drafted to Philly in, I think, the 5th round. And, unbelievable, right? This is a kid who kind of got some love this year, was playing well. And gets that opportunity for him, I think that's just like all the other guys. Is hey, now the work starts.
Yeah.
If you want to be a pro,
sure.
Now it starts. And it'll be interesting to see what he does the next year or two, and see how he develops and see what he, how much he decides to take in and what he decides to do, and kind of keep working at trying to make that ultimate goal.
But even talking to him, every summer he comes back and he trains off ice, on ice, and we see him. But there's a maturity, every year. Hopefully, you should see that in that age kids, but definitely see it in him, and he has the potential to make some improvements, make some changes, and hopefully this, like you said, just fires somebody like that up. And everybody's different. You could not get drafted, and you just got to find the reason you're fired up if you want to
Yeah.
play. Like whether that's because you didn't get drafted, you're fired up because I'm going to show these guys next draft, or maybe you got passed over in 3 drafts. And you're going to be a free agent, walk on, whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe you got drafted and then they didn't really ever give you a shot. They just sent you down back to junior, then to the A, and whether that's the reason, whatever the reason is, everyone's situation is different. If you want it, just find a reason to want to play. And we've talked about this before. Like we didn't play in the NHL, whatever, but I played farther than, probably everyone on my minor hockey team. And you'd ask a lot of parents, players at that age, I was the worst one, but I just found a way to want to play a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And you were the same way, being a guy that was like, no, he doesn't belong there. Well, no, we're going to take him as a 10th forward. He works his way into second, third line, whatever. And next year he's going to be a go-to guy for us. And you did the same thing. So everybody's in a different situation. Everyone's kind of working.
You think that feel for you is just because you're small and everyone just called you like tiny guy and small man syndrome?
A little bit
stuff?
of a
That was
complex.
mine.
Yeah,
Definitely.
sure.
It's hard to play hockey with 2 chips on your shoulder, but figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Carrying them around all the time.
Yeah. But honestly, like that was part of the motivation for me. Like when I played, it was before, the lockout of when all the rules changed for more speed in the game and stuff like that. And not to say that would have made any drastic changes for my game. Maybe it would have, I don't know. But I mean, I was playing a bigger guy's game at a small size. And yeah, I had a ton of fire in my belly just to kind of, call it small man syndrome, 100%.
Yeah.
I had a chip on my shoulder. If you call me something, I'd go right at you. Like it was just, I played angry a lot and I was better when I was angry. And what I loved,
you get cranked in the first shift.
Yeah. Somebody chirps you, you're into one now and it's
best. Yeah.
Yeah. It was great. Some of my best games were when I was, playing against another line, maybe in college or in pro, and me and the other centerman got into it and just the whole game just on each other. And I loved it. Like it just, you got 2-3 guys that want to kill you and you want to go after, it's just, you get that fire going and you're part of it. And it's just like, those are some of the best games. And I didn't go out looking for it, but if it happened, I was in. Like, yeah, let's go. And I remember when I was playing junior.
I feel like sometimes you went out look for it. But
sometimes I might get a little cranky once in a while, but even in junior, like I remember like teammates might be like, why do you fight? Like, well, he just asked me to go. So he's like, yeah, but you don't have to fight every time someone says you have to. And I wasn't a big fighter. I didn't fight all the time, but somebody called me on, unless it was like a close game or wasn't really maybe the right time to do it. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go. Unless the guy was really tough. Then like, hey, coach gave me a red light. Coach said no. He's like, no. But it was just, man, you just did whatever you had to do to play, right? And try to get to that, get beyond wherever you are. If I was playing junior, I wanted to play college. If I was playing college, I wanted to try to play pro, and kind of having that motivation to always achieve more, and then, I think it kind of sets you up a little bit probably for life at times too, right? If you're a hardworking kid, whether it's a guy or a girl, if you're a hardworking kid, you're motivated, you're working, you got your own kind of system, your own, you're sticking to a schedule, things like that. Probably going to be an okay mom, probably going to be an okay dad, probably going to be a good buddy, good husband, good, you know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of other things that come through hockey, not just, playing in the NHL or getting a scholarship or getting drafted. There's life lessons, there's friendships, there's all that other stuff that comes with it, Yeah. When you look at skill right now, so you look at like kind of where skills going in hockey and stuff like that. What are some of the biggest things you notice when you see, like when you're watching these young guys like Kakko Kakkonen or what's his name? Kakko Kakko?
The second overall pick.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Or Hughes, like these guys, like what are some of the things you notice right now when you look back a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and you look at these young kids coming in now, and even the kids that are in the NHL now, like McDavid's and, McKinnon's and stuff. Is there anything that pops for you that you're like, this is
speed,
insane.
man. And it's easy to say when you bring in McKinnon and McDavid, it's obviously that's the first thing you think of, but even take those guys out of it. And I still look at the speed, like you know what I mean? And what they can do with the puck at that speed.
Yeah,
even
for sure.
The guys that are, obviously they're overly good, these third, fourth, fifth round guys, but even guys that aren't getting drafted, in the NHL, whatever, the speed of the players nowadays is scary. It's awesome. And I mean, even, you were a fast player. I had decent feet, it was one of my assets as a player, but I'm like, every one of the guys used to be such a difference. I found, you know what I mean? Like the small, fast guys were small and fast.
Yeah.
And the big guys could hammer pucks and
hit you.
Yeah. And hit you. And it was, you were very much into a mold, now you look at these guys and they're good with like, a guy who's been on here all the time is Gabriel. If you look at him in the NHL, what's his niche? He's tough, third, fourth line, you know what I mean? Willing to fight anyone, but they're good with the puck now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they can move and they're doing, and that is a testament to what they're willing to do off the ice. They're doing all the right things. Their body moves differently than the big lumbering fourth liners of 10, 15 years ago. But I think the way that these guys move now is just, it's fun to watch, you know, and I was lucky enough because you were gone to Washington this week to skate with a couple of your groups and some of the higher end guys, and just kind of sometimes you get lost a little bit. You're just like, should be running a drill, but you're really
kind of watching them. Yeah. It happens all the time.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh,
you know, or you
sure.
give them a bad pass and you're feeling bad about it, but really they just pick it up and then keep flying. Like, no problem. I think the speed's awesome. And of course, I think with young kids, it's the puck stuff because they're watching YouTube and you know what I mean? They're watching Patrick Kane. Like that 10-year-old just did what with the puck? Like,
right.
No way, you know? And I think it maybe evens out a bit where they're doing awesome things with the puck. They're probably a little more game related as they get older into junior, and you got to worry about getting hit and big bodies and stuff. But at those young ages, they're fast. I'm more probably impressed with the crazy things they do with the puck. And as they get older though, they're doing it at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I think too, like because of YouTube and video and Instagram and all the stuff that you can instantly check out, kids are getting more ideas and they're being creative a little bit. But I think kids are not necessarily that we weren't allowed to be, but it's normal. It's okay to put the pucks through your legs. It's okay to pull a backhand toe drag or pull a stick toe drag. Like back in the day, if you put your pucks through the legs and you pulled it off and made someone look dumb, someone's going to come take your head off next shift. Or your coach can be like, you're an idiot. Why you showboating, right? Yeah. It was legitimately that. And now puck through your legs is an unreal move to get the puck on the other side or be evasive with a player. You know, and these kids can do it quick and fast. And like you said, at young ages, these kids are unreal at it, but they're allowed to. They're allowed to try that stuff. They're allowed to work on that stuff, you know, and I think that's the beauty of it, you know, is that they're developing these skills at young ages, and then when they get stronger and faster, it's just there. Yeah, you know, and they've got it. It's fun to watch for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and even for you, like, what do you know? We should probably get into how you got into Washington and Hershey and all that stuff. But like, what are you seeing at these camps? Do you see anything different from, you know, being in a pretty select group of all draft picks or free agents, you know, but the highest end, you know, young AHL players or high end junior players? What are you seeing at these camps? That,
you know what, I've been doing it. This is my 7th year with an NHL team, as far as 2 years just with development camp in Nashville, and then a little bit of a break, and then with Washington now. So I got in with just kind of a phone interview with Marty Jelena, who is the director of development in Nashville years ago, like 2011, I think it was. And they were looking for a skills coach to come in and do some power skating and some stuff with the team during development camp. So for those who don't know, development camp is basically after the draft. They bring in all the draft picks from a couple of years who are, you know, maybe playing college or junior or maybe pro, their first year pro. Some free agents, usually 25 to 35, 40 players will come in, and then they run a week-long camp, do skills, do a bunch of different stuff. So I went in there and did that for 2 years with Marty, which was amazing. And Barry Trotz was the head coach. And then I didn't go back. They ended up having somebody else come in, which was totally fine. And then a couple of years later, Barry Trotz got the job in Washington. I think it was a bit of a scramble because it happened right by the draft. So he's probably like, hey, who's that guy we had, you know, whatever. So got my number, called me and said, hey, you know, Blazer, would you be interested in coming in to Washington and helping out with development camp? I'm like, yeah, for sure. So I went down to Washington the first year he was there. And yeah, it was great. Did kind of the same stuff that we normally do, and got skill stuff, run some skill sessions, some skating sessions for the forward, for the D, put together some drills for practice, things like that. And then they had asked me to stay on and work with the prospects. So go down and work with Hershey in the AHL and work with some prospects that were drafted that were going back to play junior. So I ended up doing that for the last 5. This will be my 5th year coming up, which has been awesome. It's been unbelievable. The biggest thing I noticed over the years is the kids are coming in way better shape. So overall, like every year you'd have a couple kids like, hey, who's in really bad shape? Like, oh, check out these testing scores, you know? That's one thing I noticed right off the bat. The kids are a little more polished, a little bit, you know, they know the right answers to say. They're a little more polished, even like, you know, talking, you know, to not necessarily to me, because I'm kind of the middle guy. I'm not going to dictate their career, but I can give them some help. I can give them some insight. I can, you know, give them some feedback on stuff. But that's probably the biggest thing is just the shape they're coming in, the fitness levels that they're coming in at, which is great. They're getting, you know, way better shape. And then the skill set obviously is getting better. Like now what you see, I find, is a lot more defensemen that if you didn't know, you might think they're a forward just by watching them do drills, because they're skilled. They're making little fakes. They shoot the puck well. They can shoot and stride. Like, you know, it's kind of almost just a hybrid of a forward basically. Right. And overall the skating's gotten a lot better. Like when I first started doing this, you saw a lot of kids just, you know, grinding it out down the ice, like heel kicking, bodies all over the place. And now you see, players a little more polished on their skating as well. So, which again goes back to the game getting faster.
But a lot of them are probably working with someone like you or
most are
team or Summers, whatever, right?
And it's still surprising to me though, how many players aren't, like how many players haven't, maybe their coaches did, their assistant coaches did, they got a little bit of help that way. But every year you catch a couple guys like, hey, are you working with any skills coaches? Like, no, we just have a skate back home that our coach runs or, whatever. Right. And some of them need it. Like some of them you can say, man, like honestly, if you can become a little bit more efficient, we're not trying to change how you skate or how you shoot, but just a little more efficient could translate into more shots, could translate into getting the pucks first if you get a little bit quicker, And, but overall, yeah, most of them have skills coaches or they're working with somebody or they're, doing some stuff for sure. So the game's definitely changed that way where, more and more kids have been exposed to skill development, have been working on their position or working on their skills a lot more. So again, you see better players coming in. And for NHL teams, they want these young kids at their entry levels to try to play 3 years on their entry level and get them at a cheap deal. And, this isn't a knock, but with a salary cap era, like you can get a kid play his 19, 20, 21-year-old year on his entry level deal. It's unbelievable, and then you're getting him for 3 years. Maybe he puts up 40, 50, 60 points or he's a good defenseman. And then you get him for cheap and then, figure out what you're going to do with him after that as far as signing or, if you got the cap space or whatever's going on after that.
Yeah, that's for sure. And as far as camp goes, like, so development camp, like you said, Trotz called you. Why? Like, what's, you know what I mean? What is, and I assume this question, but like most teams are probably bringing in some type of skills guy to run camp that's outside the coaches or maybe the AHL coaches, whatever. What's your kind of role when you go there?
Yeah. It's kind of changed like year to year, depending on what's going on. So for instance, my first couple of years, I had my own kind of sheet. I brought in Scott with me. So Jonesy came with me and he'd kind of run the D. I'd run the forwards. We'd split the ice and just do skills like skating stuff, skating video, some shooting, puck handling, things like that. Some D specific stuff, forward specific stuff. That was the first couple of years. And then I started going in on my own. And then just running skill sessions for the whole group. So kind of breaking stuff up on the ice for both of them, but not as detailed because you're by yourself and it's just, there's a lot of guys, right? So even if you had two coaches or three coaches that are very skill oriented, it's still tough with big groups, but enough that they're going to get something out of it. And then last year it was kind of a transition year. So Washington had just won the cup. We knew that Trotz wasn't coming back. So at development camp, a couple of the coaches weren't there. And then the AHL, the coaches weren't coming back. So we had a couple of guest coaches come in. And then Reed Cashman, who's now with Washington as their defense coach, him and I kind of helped run the camp. So that was kind of cool. We had an opportunity.
You would have been in your fifth, sixth year.
Yeah, that was my fourth year, right? So I knew how it ran. I knew what to do. Like I knew it was all good. But that was cool because we kind of ran all the ice sessions and put them all together, him and I, and helped, worked with the other coaches who were awesome. And it was really good. Like it was a lot of fun. Like everything, that was a cool experience. And then this year, just a little bit different experience. I went in, ran a bunch of skill stuff, did on ice testing with the players, which I do every year, but did on ice testing with them, and then got the results to the coaching staff and stuff like that. And then I left, and the AHL coaches ran the rest of the camp and kind of let them kind of take it on. It's kind of their baby for the most part. If you have a good AHL staff, some teams do it differently, but in Washington, kind of the AHL staff, it's their chance to kind of, show what they've got and work with the kids and get first touches on some of these kids. So yeah, it was great. Like every year has been a little bit different, but overall it's been awesome. And they've got a great staff up there. The coaches are awesome, like very accepting. And, when you first walk into an NHL locker room, it's kind of like, oh crap. Yeah. If you play there, it's different, right? If you play in the NHL, it's not a big deal. But if you're, a young guy walking in, you're like, man, like you're looking on the wall, there's, pictures and names of, past guys you watched. And so it's a little bit maybe intimidating at first for sure, but
especially as a guy who didn't play probably, like
totally.
So many of these teams now have, they're hiring whether it's cliche or just kind of habit. They got these guys that played 1,000 games, they're retiring and they give them jobs, right? As skill guys. Well, you're a guy coming in, like, I don't know. I could only imagine myself walking into an NHL room being like, whoa.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the big thing, like with what I would do or you would do, or a skills coach would do differently is, let's say for instance, so one of our development players is Ole Kolzig, who obviously a Vezina Trophy, goaltender is unbelievable, like played years. He's, he's awesome, right? Really good guy. But he's not going to go and break down how to take a better shot or someone's hands are too tight when they're stick handling. And cause you see the same stuff that you see in minor hockey at the pro level, right? So for me, I'm more on I got my work boots on and I'm in the trenches, just helping guys try to get better at their skating or try to get better at their getting in better position or even just protecting the puck better or getting shots off under pressure or like all these little things. Right. So I would go in and do that intricate work where Ole's awesome for like, hey, welcome to the NHL, or hey, welcome to the AHL. Make sure you get this set up. Make sure you get this set up. Take him for dinner. How's everything going? How you like it? Like, that's huge. And that's really, really important. So there's two parts of development when you think of that, right? And sometimes you'll get pro guys that get that job and they'll go on the ice with the guys, and which is amazing. And, talk to them about defense tactics or forward tactics and all that stuff, is very, very important. But now more and more NHL teams are hiring full-time groups, 1 or 2 guys to be full-time on ice guys and guys like you and I that are more skill oriented to complement what the ex-NHL guys are doing with those guys. Right. So, and I think the reason this is happening is, like you said earlier, is to help these young guys turn pro, to help these young guys be effective in the NHL earlier and get them ready, a little bit earlier. So you see it more and more and more now where teams are hiring this as a full-time or a good part-time or 3/4 time role to be around and help the AHL guys out, help the young pro guys out, and help the young NHL guys get in the NHL. So, is it, and a lot of times the NHL guys are awesome as far as they don't really care where you played, as long as you're not an idiot.
Yeah.
And, you know what you're saying, and you're staying in your lane a little bit too. I think is important. A lot of these skill guys like myself will go in and be like, hey man, I'd like to be an assistant coach. That'd be cool. And then they kind of start to line themselves up and, try to, do some shady things, try to potentially get a job as an assistant coach. And that happens. And then that either works, maybe short term, or you get squashed because someone finds out your real motive, and then things. And I've always been good on just staying in my lane. Like I love what we do here in London. I love the group of guys that we work together. It's awesome. And for me, the thing with working with Washington is amazing, but that's something kind of a little bit different than what I do day to day, which is great. And I love it and I really, really enjoy it, but I also really enjoy coming home and being around the boys here at the rink and being around, all the guys that we work with, and the group of staff we have here is wicked. So, it's been really, really fun.
It's cool. And almost like sometimes like a little bit of a carrot, at the end of the road, like, I'm with you. We love doing all, younger minor hockey, everything, but sometimes it's a nice change to I'm sure for you, and I haven't been out there, but working with those. Those
and I mean, like, let's be honest, we'll be very honest here, but selfishly, like there's times where like we're grinding it out here for a couple of weeks on the ice late at night, and my kids aren't sleeping. And then I get a drive to Detroit on a Friday to fly out, and I'm like, all right,
this is
it's okay.
The NHL schedule and eating out and per diem.
And then you feel like the worst dad ever when you're like calling home and on FaceTime and the kids and my wife, and kids are freaking out. It's bedtime. All right, honey, I got to go to dinner now. I'll talk to you later.
Like, good luck.
Worst husband ever. But I try to keep my trips as short as I can, like 3, 4, 5 days, and then try to get home obviously for hockey or whatever we got going on with the young guy with the family, right? So
And then as far as camps go, like, and again, I haven't been there, but like, give us like a bit of a day in the life, whether it's like what you're doing, you've talked a little bit about that, but even the players. So let's take McMichael or Suzuki and they get drafted Friday, Saturday, whatever it is. And what happens Sunday, Monday? Yeah,
I think there's only like 3 teams or 4 teams that don't do their development camp right after the draft. So let's say it's a kid from Latvia or a kid from US somewhere that's in Vancouver this year, let's say for the draft. They get drafted on Saturday. Well, they got to report to camp on Sunday or Monday in wherever, like New Jersey, Anaheim or Washington. So most kids will bring their stuff or at least their skates to the draft. And then if they do get drafted, they know where they're going, and then they're just going to fly there with their gear and then be ready for a development camp. But they come in Monday, they check in. The first day is usually just like medicals, physicals, a little bit of off ice testing usually. So they'll go through all that kind of stuff off ice. Usually for us anyway, they don't touch the ice on the Monday, and then Tuesday we kind of get to work. But the days are long, like for the coaches especially, but the kids too. And I say coaches especially because you'd be amazed at the amount of video we do behind the scenes to put together like little, we do like a lot, like not a lot, but a couple little kind of breakout sessions or little video sessions with the players. And we'll show like, 20 clips and go through them on puck protection, whatever skills we're going to be working on. We try to show them those skills. So there's a lot of work behind the scenes, but for the players too, like, their wake up calls 6:30, breakfast at 7, they're at the rink at 8, or wake up calls at 6, breakfast at 6:30, they're at the rink at 7. Like and then when they get to the rink, it's bang, bang. There's, their day is pretty much full. And in Washington, we don't skate a ton, usually an hour to 2 hours a day. So it's not too bad, but they'll have workouts in there. So a day would be coming in, having a breakout session. So one of the coaches would talk about a certain, like how to be a good pro, how we approach practice in Washington, different things like that. And then they may have a warm up and then on the ice for a skill session, and then they jump off.
Which you would run in most cases.
Yeah. So maybe I'd run that skill session for that day. And maybe, the the topics would be like for the forwards would be puck protection and wall play. So one of the drills or two of the drills would have that in it. D would be head up shooting and walking the line with deception. And we always have like 2 or 3 different, skills that we're going to be covering in that session.
Yeah.
And then we add them into the drills. And then that's kind of how we go through that hour and make the kids aware of that and make sure they know what's going on and why we're doing this stuff. And the last couple of years has been way more skill based. The camps have been all about just teaching and working and teaching, which has been really like fun for us, obviously for me, because I love that kind of stuff, and then as they get moving forward, then they go for lunch, they'd have lunch. And then, after lunch, maybe a workout and then a second ice session, maybe a 3-on-3 tournament, or like, for instance, on Tuesday or Wednesday, we did a small area game. So it's it was all small area games. I think there was 4 or 5 different small area games that we played with the group, and it was fun. It was a big competition between red and white. And then on, Thursday, it'd be the same kind of idea. Get up, have breakfast, breakout session, video session, forward session, D session, goalie session, like all kind of together as far as different ice surfaces. And then lunch. And then they had, I think, free time in DC. So they had that afternoon off. And then Friday, same idea, breakout session, skill session, full team practice.
It's pretty full for you. And
days are long, man. And then like a 4-on-4 tournament or whatever in that afternoon. And then Saturday's short. They just have a scrimmage and then they all fly out. Right. But yeah, it's long for the kids. Like it definitely is, but they're trying to not jam, but give them as much information as they can about the NHL, about being in the NHL, about what the schedule is like. Not that a schedule is like that for NHL players every day, but just that work, you know what I mean? And putting the work in, putting the time in, getting them around the right strength coaches, nutritionalists, all this stuff. So yeah, it's pretty detailed for sure.
I mean, if you were a player, if I was a player going to camp, it's a little bit different than just going to a junior team and trying to make it. Cause you're realistically, like you said, I think they're all pretty realistic. Like, unless you're top couple pick, you're probably realistic knowing that you're not making the team. But what's their goal? Is it to impress you? You mentioned on ice testing, off ice testing. Is it just to beat their scores from last year? Is it to get invited to main camp? Like what's a player going into camp trying to accomplish?
I think every team's going to be different, right? So if I'm drafted, or let's say I'm a young prospect and I'm drafted to, let's say Edmonton, or I'm drafted to, a team in the bottom, like maybe Buffalo. Well, man, maybe there's an opportunity to make this team, right? I'm a good player. I'm 6'2". I'm pretty fit. I'm pretty thick. I can play. I can handle men. I lit up junior. I might have a chance of I want to crack this lineup. But you get drafted to a team, even like Washington or, teams that are deep.
Always pretty good. Always.
Yeah, you're like probably not going to play there this year. They've got their top 6 are unreal and their bottom 3 are really good. Like it's going to be really hard to crack this, right? So I think, you got to kind of look and be, every player there is going there trying to get invited back to main camp at least. And then try to, that's, I think the goal for most of these kids is let's try to get invited back to main camp. Let's impress them, especially as a free agent or a late round pick, But some of the young guys, it's just a process, right? You get drafted at 18, you're not ready to play in the OHL or the NHL, that. So you're there for experience. You're there to take it all in, learn as much as you can. Maybe you have a better summer because you went there and you picked up some things that you can implement in the summer to get better. Maybe you got some feedback on your skating at camp and you're like, man, my times on my testing are way below average. Like I got to get that up. Right. So maybe it's an eye opener for some of the guys. And then go back to junior and play as well as you can. And maybe next year you'll have a better camp and maybe better things will happen for you, but I think every team situation is going to be a little bit different for players going in, whether it's, like I said, if the team's deep, it's going to be hard to make. And you kind of know that. And then some of the kids, like we have kids that are 19 or that are 20. So they'd be always like overage players in the OHL or WHL or the Q. And they know they're going to probably be in the AHL. Start there. They might get sent down to the East Coast League, but for the most part, they're going to be there. And if you're signed, then at 20 years old, you're going to be playing in the for Hershey. And so you kind of have an idea that I'm probably not going to play with the big club, but I'm going to be able to start playing pro and making a little bit of money and being able to get my career started and get some experience,
Yeah. So they're going there with a purpose.
Yeah.
Like they're, obviously the purpose to play and whatever, but yeah, you're going there, not fighting literally, but fighting for your life and make a good impression. And obviously on you and the coaches. The coaches are, I'm sure, in constant contact with you in terms of what do you see, what do you think, like, and does this, and you mentioned before, going to Hershey, I know you go out west once or twice a year to see some of the higher end prospects and stuff. How much do you take away from what you see? Does it change? Like, let's say you see a couple D men that are playing junior or going to Hershey, whatever. Like, do you making notes and keeping a book in terms of, hey, when I get down there, these guys got to do this. Like, I know this is camp or.
Yeah, it's a good question. So every time I go, like if I'm out to see a prospect, I'll try to watch a game and I'll try to get on the ice with them. So I'll try to talk to their coaching, talk to their staff, or their GMs, and hey, I'm in town. Do you mind if I jump out after practice or before practice or in the morning if the players don't have school? And I always tell them if there's another couple of players that want to come out, they're more than welcome to come out. Because I don't want our guy to feel like he's on an island. Like, hey, your Caps guy's here, your skill coach is here. So I'll bring out whoever and kind of run a skill session. I'll key in on our guy, but run a skill session and kind of, make it's good because then you kind of gain some points with the coaching staff. You get to chat with them a little bit about the player and the other guys like it, and it's kind of fun, something different. But I'll always take notes on that skill session and the game, and then do a report on the player and send that over to the coaches, or the coaches and GMs and scouts and stuff. But that kind of gives me some takeaways on things that I feel like when I watch a game, I'm not looking at let's say the systems of the game. I'm looking at, will those skills translate? So what's his speed like? What's his compete like? What's he like on pucks? Is he hungry? Is he winning 50-50 battles? Is he strong on draws? What's his wall play like? Like things to me that'll translate to the NHL. Because sometimes, if I watch him dangle 2 16-year-old D, that's great, but man, it's not going to translate in the NHL, sure. Right? So what the kind of things like that means great skill. He's got some creativity, good, but he's got to make sure that he keeps his feet moving because he's not getting around those guys quick enough to do that at the next level, And then when I go down to Hershey, I write reports every time I go. So every time I leave, I'll write down a report of what we did that week, what we worked on with this player and this player and this player. What are some areas that he needs to improve on? What are some areas we're going to focus on, next time I'm there? And then that gives me something to reference when I'm going down. Say, oh yeah, that's right. We got to work on his one-timer. Oh yeah, he's shooting with his head down from the blue line. Got to make sure he gets his head up. Or, oh yeah, I got to make sure his release is quicker on his shot. He's taking too long and pucks are getting tipped out everywhere, right? So I'll always kind of have, and I've got that for a couple of years on guys. So I'll kind of look back on things, and see how they're progressing and kind of see how they're moving forward.
Yeah. And there's probably a lot of, only because our desks are 7 feet away from each other, but a lot of behind the scenes work, like non-glamorous stuff that you have to do. It's always fun watching Instagram and seeing you skating with a pro guy, but there's whether that's after the kids go to bed, you're watching Hershey's game. You know what I mean? On your computer at night, because you're going there next week, or you're going there, or whatever it is, or watching game tape that a coach sends you. I don't know. There's probably a ton of non-glamorous things.
Well, and even for me, it's minimal compared to even coaches. You watch coaches on the bench, you watch coaches that are running practice, and especially at the pro level, you're like, man, it's amazing. Or flying on a private jet, or private team jets, chartered flights for the NHL guys. It's amazing. And then you walk in the office at Tuesday at 8 a.m, and all the coaches are there cutting video. They just went through, when I had an opportunity this year to go up with Washington a couple of times to do some skill stuff with them, you walk in for a meeting at 7:00 and
they're in there. Yeah,
they're all in there. I'm not, they're like, yeah, Blaze, you can come to the meeting if you want. I'm like, yeah, for sure. I want to go and check this out, right? Walk into the, Washington Capitals coaching staff meeting, and they're checking video out. They're looking at video from last night's game, or they're pre-scouting a team, or they're, it's unbelievable, man. The amount of work that these guys put in, they're there from 7:00 in the morning till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. When the boys show up, the team shows up at 8 o'clock, the pro, the guys that need extra, they're early, they're stretching, they're, riding the bike, they're maybe working out before practice. And then there's a whole full, breakfast there for all the boys. And then they get dressed, jump on the ice at 9:30, 10 o'clock, whatever time practicing start, do their hour and 15. Some guys will stay out longer, work on some stuff, get off, have their workout or shower, big lunch spread. Yeah. Have lunch there and then, take off. It's unbelievable.
But to be successful now, whether it's a team or an individual, we talked about players having a skills coach, being a good person, doing the other things, but these successful, I think probably most NHL teams are all doing, a lot of that. But even look at the Knights, the hours that coaching staff is putting in, it's not a shock that those guys are good
for sure.
Pretty consistently, second, third round playoffs, winning championships. They're, talking to Steady and Rick Stedman and Dill, in the playoffs, they're not playing anymore. They're cutting playoff video every day just because, just because they're hockey guys. They want it, but they're putting it, in a file, and they've got it banked for next year.
And they'll use that. Yeah, they'll use it next year, right?
Sure.
But you're right. When I remember knowing the finals when St. Louis was playing Boston, they were in there cutting St. Louis Boston games just to keep fresh probably, and also have some stuff that they're going to may use, some good stuff that they see. But the good teams aren't usually good by accident. There's hard work behind the scenes, whether it's from the players or the coaches or both, is the best, obviously, having everyone working hard. And at the NHL level, what they do, and I think this is most pro sports, is they really try to take away any distractions from the players. So the players aren't leaving the rink hungry, going home, trying to figure out what they're going to eat. It's just, and I know that sounds like, okay, we're babying these guys. Maybe, yeah. But everything's taken care of. You get the rink, there's food there. There's never an excuse. Oh, I'm hungry. Well, why? There's a full buffet. There's a fridge full of, drinks and whatever, right? Like, so they take away a lot of that stuff where we need you to be the best that you can be, because there's a lot of money on us winning. There's a lot of, there is, right? It's a business. So at the end of the day, like, let's take away as much as we can, make sure they're taken care of, and then they can do their job, and there's less stuff for them.
Some of them are
focus
kids.
on, right? So yeah, you're 19, 20, like, they don't know how to make boiled egg, or they don't know how to make pasta, some of them, right? So the more that they can take care of and get off their plate, I think the better product you're gonna have on the ice on these players, right? Kind of totally goes against what we were talking about at the start of the podcast as far as building an independent kid.
Exactly.
But
my 14-year-old's super responsible, but my 18-year-old in the NHL doesn't know how to pay himself.
It's funny when years ago now, I had an opportunity to work with Logan Couture when he was young. He's playing in the O for Ottawa, and we were doing some skating and skill stuff in the summer, and I'd asked him, is 18 years old, and I think it was going the year before his draft and the year of his draft, so it was 2 or 3 years I'd worked with him, and I was like, you working this summer? And he's like, no, I'm not working. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And, session's done. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, man, I worked every summer.
Same.
And I'm like,
same.
Man, that's like, and then in my mind, I'm like, it's kind of brutal. Like, this kid should be working, and like, understanding the values of whatever. And this is me and my, 29, 30-year-old head, right? Well, I ended up talking to his mom about it, and his mom said, and we were just talking. I'm like, oh, he's not working in the summer. She's like, no, you know what? We talked to him about it, and we said, you know what? If you really want to push hockey and you really want to make this a thing, you only got a small window to do it. So, your summer job is going to be your training and working out and on ice and getting ready, and we'll invest in that. And if you're willing to put the time in and the work in, and I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. You know what I mean? Still, okay, maybe a little privileged, whatever. But, and then now that I think about it, I'm like, that's 100%. Like what those parents did, what Couture's parents did is took away
distractions,
all those distractions, and let him just focus on hockey. And he's a good kid and a hardworking kid, right? So if your kid's a mess and out partying every night, probably not the right thing to do. And sure enough, he gets drafted. I think the next year I was still working with him. It was kind of cool as the first kid I'd really worked with like that intently, that went through getting contracting and signing and all this kind of stuff, right? But now you look at it, and I mean, he's done very well. He's probably set for life. He's an unbelievable NHL player, had an unreal playoff this year. Like, did they do the things the right way? Probably. Could have been done differently 100%, but the way that the mindset that they had going into him, like, that makes total sense. Like, let him focus on his craft. Let him keep working on. Is him working at McDonald's going to build up these unbelievable life skills that, know, and he's, and that, I don't know, $500,000 a month he's making, like, is that going to make a difference? And I was, after thinking about it, I was like, man, that makes total sense. And now looking at them, like, they're really smart. That was a real good play.
Well
played.
There's a break even, where it's 7 years later, you're paying for it to do everything. You're like, okay, maybe it's, because just saying everything with a grain of salt, we're talking about taking on responsibility, but I totally agree. I think it's just a decision you make with your parents and the player, where he's got a real shot at this. Like, this is his window, 2-3 years. Let's make an investment, like you said. Or no, my kid's just, he loves it. He's fine playing junior. He's just going to kind of play out his 3-4 years and go to school. Great. Awesome. Just recognize the situation you're in and what's I don't know what you can accomplish. I guess you can accomplish anything. I'm not saying just because you're playing, say, junior B, you can't make that investment, but just make sure the kid's in the right frame of mind if you're going to do that, I think. Yeah. And I think if you've got the means to do that, where your kid can just train and work out and skate and do privates, like, that's amazing. Awesome.
But I hope that you're expecting your child to be appreciative. Pleases and thank yous, like working his tail off, picking the right opportunities to go out, go to the cottages, whatever, you know what I mean? It's not going every weekend, lighting it up and golfing all weekend, like, I think that's kind of that give and take a little bit, And again, to your point, like, if he's playing high level, that's different. If he's playing in the OHL and he's a captain of an OHL team, or he's a real good 17, 18-year-old that has a real opportunity, then okay, maybe we'll, invest a little bit just to see what happens. If your kid's playing junior C and, is doing okay, he's 19 years old, well, probably should get a job. Like, I don't think there's going to be a lot of scout schools looking at junior C, which is not have fun, fill your boots, enjoy it. It's awesome, right? But yeah, you got to kind of, I think as a parent, be a little bit realistic on some of that stuff too, Yeah,
that's cool. I'm gonna go another way on you here, and some a little fun, okay? Because you mentioned, but going to Washington, right? And I don't know if you've ever really talked about that, but I got kind of like 2 questions for you. One, how'd that happen? How'd you end up actually, because you were with Hershey for years and the prospects out west or wherever you were going, and then you ended up there, and like, what was your, you listen to these interviews for these players, and you've asked, certain guys like Bo and Trav, like, what was your first moment? Was it taking a draw against Crosby, or what was like your, like, one of your, like, I got to keep my emotions in check. Like, that was pretty cool, you know?
Yeah. My
being out
first,
there.
I have two that I like clear as day. I mean, the whole experience was really cool going to Washington. So how that happened was, I had been there obviously for, 3 years, and then Todd Reardon got named the head coach last year. So in my 4th year, and he approached me and said, "Hey, listen, Dwayne, like I've talked to some of the guys like Backstrom and Ovechkin, these guys, and they like more skill. Like we do a lot of system stuff. We do a lot of things. We do some skill. Don't get me wrong. Like they have great assistant coaches and they spend time with guys after, but they like to do a little bit more skill stuff. And I like to bring you in, just try it out. It's my, first year here. And I like to try to implement some different things." I'm like, that sounds awesome. I'm in 100%, obviously. Right.
And some of the AHL guys.
Yeah. So there's like a
too,
handful of guys that were up, like Vrana and Boyd was up there a little bit, Bowie and Juice, and a couple of guys that, I'd worked with for the last 2-3 years in Hershey that are now in the NHL. So I knew some of the guys, right? So he said, "I'm going to bring in these 2 dates and just, run a couple of drills to start a practice, maybe a little bit after if you want to stick, if the guys want to stick around, you'll stick around with them. And then we'll just introduce you." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's great." So I get to the rink, and I'm familiar with the rink because it's a practice facility. That's where we have development camps. I've been there a bunch, but I've never been there when like all the big clubs been there. There's been a couple guys floating around that I've met, like Oshie or different guys that have been, Brooks Orpik, that have been there, and "Hey, how you doing?" Whatever. But I don't know any of the main guys on the team. I know some of the young guys. So I kind of walk in and go to the meeting in the morning about video and going through like,
this is like mid-season.
Yeah, this is like October.
Yeah. Okay.
So, they're a couple weeks in, month in, right? And so then I go out to like walk out to where the breakfast is, and I'm walking down there, and I see a couple of guys I know, like, "Hey, how's it going? Hey, how you doing?" And they knew I was coming. A couple of them sort of like, "Oh, cool." He didn't really tell the whole team. He was kind of like keeping it for a bit of a surprise, which like,
awesome.
You seriously not do this? And I'll back up a sec. So I fly in. They're playing Toronto at home. The next day I have them for practice. So they had just had 3 games in 4 days, which is a lot in an NHL schedule.
So they were pumped for practice.
So they had Toronto at home, then they had me, and then they had me twice, I think, and then a day off.
Yeah.
So it was like, Saturday, that was their Sunday, Monday, they had a Monday off, Monday, Tuesday off, or something like that. Maybe it was just one session. But anyways, they lose to Toronto at home. It's a Saturday night. I got to run practice on Sunday. That's what it was. I had to run practice on Sunday. I'm like these guys are going to go get lit up tonight, number one. Number two, like, they're going to be pissed about, like, we're having practice, number one, because then they had a day off the next day. So so after the game, I go down to the coach's room, and it's like dead silent. And I'm not going to say anything. Like, "Hey, boys, that was a close one." I just like sitting there. And then it was pretty quiet the whole time. And then started chatting a little bit. And I went to Todd. I'm like, "We're still good for tomorrow? Like, these guys going to even want to do?" It's like, no, they'll be fine, man. They'll be fine. I'm like, "Okay." And then I knew what they do, read Cashman pretty well. I'm like, "Cash, like, are these guys going to go out tonight and just get buckled?" Like, he's like, "No, they actually won't." Like, most of the families, like, they're older, like, they won't. Like, okay. So I walk in the rink the next day, and we have our meeting, and then I'm walking around to go get breakfast, and, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm Braden. Like, "Hey, Braden Holtby, how you doing?" Like, I know who you are, I think, but they were unbelievable, man. And this couple of guys were like, "Hey, man, good game last night. It was a tough one." He's like, "Yeah, it's October." Like, they just won the Cup. They're like, "Whatever, it's a loss." Like, it was unbelievable just to see how these pros reacted to lose. Like, "We'll get them next." Like, it's not a big deal, So I'm around the corner, and then Ovi's on the phone, comes wheeling out, and he's a big boy. Like, you always know he's a big boy, but when you like go get kind of face to face with him, like, he's
looking up.
He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" He just keeps walking, like, "Hey, go grab breakfast." That was moment one. I was like, "Oh, like, he's just bigger than you think," and And then on the ice, so then I'm running the first 2 drills of practice. So I'm literally like at the board, like you would be at a minor hockey practice. Players are on one knee, like, just around you in a half circle. I'm drawing the board out, drawing the
eye to eye on one knee.
I'm kind of getting a little bit nervous, like, just first time dealing with the whole NHL team. Like, one-on-one or small groups different. It's kind of like, it's easy. You got a couple guys, you're just, whatever. So I'm drawing this up on the board, and I turn just to like look. I don't just stand at the board. I usually make eye contact, talk a little bit, and I turn like this, and Ovi's down on one knee, and like there's like, Kuznetsov and Oshie, and I'm like I literally got like a hot flash, and I was like, and then I started to like fumble my words.
No.
Like, yeah, not bad. Like, I don't think I caught it, but in my mind, I'm like, holy, crossover is hard to say, and so it's just, it was kind of surreal for sure. And it was really cool because it was like, this is like, I'm kind of an outer body, not outer body, but just like, I'm seriously really here right now, doing this. And the guys were awesome. Like, I did a couple drills, and they were like different than just like the normal system practice. And not that they don't do skill drills and stuff, but just try to add some different stuff into it and that. And And the guys were great, like after practice. So we start at one rink because they have 2 pads there, start at one rink, and then 20 minutes in or 30 minutes in, they'll go to the other rink and then finish practice up, just clean our ice. And the ice gets pretty beat up with that many big guys on it. And yeah, on the way over, guys are like, hey, good job, man. Backstrom comes up, hey, nice work. And then it was cool. And then after practice, there was an optional for the forwards. You could stay if you wanted to stay. And so I think almost every forward stayed. And even Ovechkin stayed, we're just doing some quick shooting and give and go shot. And so a bunch of guys went, Ovi went on one side, a bunch of guys went on the other side, Ovi went on the other side, and then Ovi took off, went off the ice, which was fine. A couple of guys started to filter out, and I stayed on for probably another 30 minutes with a bunch of guys. And some of the young AHL guys, like, they love being on the ice, so we stayed out after and messed around doing a bunch of stuff. And I get off the ice, a couple of coaches are like, holy geez, like, we've never seen Ovi stay after practice. They're kind of joking, right? But he's just like, he's got a family. He's scores 50 a year. Like, he'll stay out once in a while, but usually, he's
even just being a captain kind of.
That's 100% why I did it. It's just being a good captain and but it was really, I was very grateful for it. It was nice of him to do that, but it was good to just get like feedback from some of the guys. Like, oh, this is cool. Like something different. I like it, but you're still like putting together drills and it's so different. Putting together drills for like minor midget team or a junior team or whatever. It's like, okay, that's one thing. But then you put together drills for like guys that are legitimately making millions of dollars scoring goals that it's like, are they going to like doing a saucer pass over a stick? Like, right?
For sure. But
yeah, they do. Like they like all the stuff that we like, and they don't get it a lot. So for them, it's like, cool, something different, and so it was really cool. And that whole experience as far as being up there a couple of times this year was awesome.
Get easier or no?
Yeah. You get more comfortable.
Not easier,
right?
more comfortable.
Yeah, like you get to know guys a little bit, like, having conversations with guys now. Hey, how are your kids? Oh, you got how many kids you have? Oh, you got 2. Oh, yeah, cool. What were they for Halloween? I was there right around Halloween the one time, and like, oh yeah, one was a pumpkin. And I'm like, cool. Like, it's just, they're like, man, my kids went as as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, it's just, they're just dudes, and so once you kind of get over that hump of like, obviously they're NHL stars and they're very good at what they do, but they're just nice guys. Just guys from 99% of the guys I've ever met have just been real good dudes.
And then probably from your standpoint as a skills guy, like you said, you don't go there, step on any toes, but as you do get to know them, get comfortable with them, you're probably easier to start talking to them about like
for sure
functional things, basically, probably not breaking down their stride like crazy, but like just little like puck things or puck protection things, whatever. Like I'd probably get just like anyone, like, I don't know, you have a kid that comes out and he's 14 and he's a AAA player and are you all over him about changing him as a player? Like
no.
Day one? No, you get to know him, you see how he does things. You kind of, ease into it a little bit. Like same thing with those guys, they different scale, but they got to make some of the same changes that the kids make, they not comfortable carrying their puck on their backhand or whatever it is, they're not good at picking up rims on their back, whatever. Like they got to make some of the same changes. So the more comfortable you get, you can.
No, I think that's a good point. Even for coaches, like you got a new team, trying to fix everything right away. Like that's not going to work. And then, or some kid can't skate really well and you're going to hammer on them day 2. It's just going to turn people off. I think you got to ease into it a little bit and you pick a couple things that they want to work on, or a couple things that they know that they have issues with. And that happens by communicating with them and talking with them and seeing what they need to work on or what they feel they need to work on. And then I think you massage the rest of the stuff in. But to your point, like when I was up in Washington, like after being there for a couple sessions and work with guys after practice, I'd ask them questions like, hey, how do you feel when you're doing this? It's like, it's good. Sometimes it's awkward. I'm like, well, why don't you try just dropping that hand down a little bit? And when you make contact, you'll have more power on your stick. And they'll try. I'm like, oh, that feels good, man. I'm like, it'll feel weird a little bit for sure because it's a different spot. But once you get comfortable, you get way more contact. And, a couple guys are like, yeah, this is way better, man. And
not to mention you tell them to do something and they're just so good. It's 8 seconds later, they're doing it like they've been doing it their whole life.
Especially if they want to like make a little bit of a change on it or they don't like how something feels, And then when obviously Tom Wilson was suspended for a little bit, so I had a chance to go up and work with him kind of one-on-one a little bit, which is really cool. And that gave me an opportunity just to like get to know somebody and he's, well liked. The guys love him. Like he's
exactly what you hear. Just like,
he's an awesome guy, man. He talks about anything. Like he's a really, really good guy and real like unbelievable teammate. Obviously like sticks up for guys and stuff, but just a guy who'll go through the wall for his boys. But that was nice because then I got a chance to meet with him and kind of work with him a little bit, and then hopefully I don't know what happened, but hopefully when I come in, it's not like, oh, here's that donkey again. Like okay, where he's like, oh no, he's a good guy. I got to know him or. It's not, because as soon as some players like, oh, we've got a skills coach here, or we got power skating, or like, okay, I don't want to do it. Yeah. But the guys are awesome. Like it was really, really, and it's different there because they're professional. They're But if you go out and you blow it, like your first session or two, and you're a tool,
Yeah.
and you're talking about stuff that's over their head, or you're trying to be too smart, or trying to add like these crazy drills that are like, jumping off your edges and jumping over, they'll be like,
You lost them.
beat it. Yeah. Like honest to God, if you did 90% of the stuff on Instagram, they'd be like, get out of here.
Yeah,
This is
for
ridiculous. Sure. Like really, that is so true. Like they'd rather work on like stuff that's going to work in the NHL, not stuff that's going to work at an ice rink in August or July in Helsinki. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's, or Canada, doesn't matter where it is, but I think that's like, they want to work on practical stuff that's going to make their game better, not jumping over tires or, hitting a springboard and flipping a puck in the air. Like it's just, so for them, it's, it's fun because you can kind of go back to what we like to do is keep it real practical to a game and, explain that, hey, when you guys work on this, think of this or think of that. And, put yourself in this situation in a game, you're driving around a D, you're getting a shot. And I think they like that kind of stuff that's more practical for them. Right. But
that's pretty neat.
Yeah, no, it's been really cool. It's been good. One thing I wanted to ask you about, and I had an opportunity to do this a couple of years ago. And Canada's kind of, there's a lot of talk right now about like the US and their skill development, and how much better it is. And they're doing a good job and they have unbelievable players coming through. Hughes being a first overall. They had a bunch of kids get drafted out of the US, the national program.
Right.
Finland.
Seems like every year there's some high level.
There's a bunch, man. And the program's awesome. And then Finland's got a bunch. They're winning championships. They got tons of good players coming out of there. Like it's unbelievable. Sweden, same thing. Canada now is like, hey, we've played for the flag long enough. We've played for the love of the game long enough. Now I think we're just switching a little bit where we got to buy into our skill development a little more. We got to take a little bit more time into developing and making our coaches better, making our players better, and you're going to have an opportunity this summer to go do this skills program. So Canada, for the first time in the last, forever, but in the last 3 years, have started to certify skills coaches in Canada. So if any parents or coaches or players out there hear someone saying, hey, I'm a certified power skating instructor, there's impossible. Like There's no governing body that really does that. Right. Even skill coaching. If someone says, yeah, I'm a certified skills coach, there's one governing body that does it right now. It's Hockey Canada. It's only been done for 3 years. And you've got to get accepted. You got to send video in, the whole process. So let me know, like I've gone through it. I love it. I think it's amazing. Yeah, right, I did it the first year. It was awesome. It was really, really cool. But when you got like kind of just for any other skill coaches that maybe listen or maybe looking at doing something like this, because I'm big now because I'm old, but I'm big now on like sharing stuff and man, the more the merrier. If we had 4 or 5 guys in the area that are good and doing skill stuff, like let's work together. Let's collaborate or whatever. You know what I mean? It's got to be the right fit. But
absolutely.
But now for you, kind of going through it, well, like when you got your application and kind of going through, like, is it kind of what you expected? Even as far as I know you haven't done it yet, but kind of the
it
baby
is.
steps.
It's almost for me. It's you were talking about like walking into the Caps room and kind of being like, whoa. For me, Hockey Canada is brand new to me. I've never I was lucky enough to do some things with you through the Alliance and Gold Cup here a few months ago, but I haven't done anything with Hockey Canada yet. So it's exciting. And I know I'm not working with the players. This is the skill side, like you mentioned, but I was almost a little bit nervous. And then, and I know just from reading about it and talking to you, they want guys that are doing this full, like-minded people that are not necessarily doing it full time, but are in hockey full time, whether you're assistant coach or, and specifically full-time skills guys. So I was like, yeah, this will be awesome. And you'd been through it. And then once I sent that application in, I was just, not that I assumed I would get it. I got really nervous. I was like,
well, what happens if I get denied?
Yeah. What happens if I don't, get picked for it? Cause from what I heard, there was a fair number of applicants and the group that gets accepted every year is, fairly small. So lucky enough, I remember reading the first paragraph, like the first, when I got accepted and it was just probably not wording that I would put, like I would have put right away, like, hey, congrats. But it was like down the letter a little bit. So I'm reading this letter going, holy crap, they didn't say congrats right away. Like, this sucks.
You start shredding it.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Wait a sec.
How am I going to tell Dwayne? Yeah. but no, lucky enough to get in and I'm really looking forward to it. So I think, like you said, though, I'm excited to get there and be with, I'm sure there's always some, any group has maybe some eccentric personalities and things like that, but share information and learn from other guys and talk about things like, hey, how do you teach this? Or what do you think about this? And I'm sure we'll, disagree on some things and have some constructive, conversations about like, what about this or try this? And for me, I know right away, I'm a guy that can be like, I like that. Like, I've never thought of that before, but that's great. or yeah, I like this part of it. I'm really excited about that. And I think we do that well. Like you and I and Max and Wade and the guys that are, here in London, we do that really well, but just being kind of getting outside the box a little bit and talking to some different guys.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not going to go there and be super vocal. I'll definitely share my opinions and stuff, but almost we've talked numerous times about that Instagram kind of what you see on there and kind of getting rid of that, like trying to get rid of that kind of stigma a little bit of that's not functional all the time. So going there and trying to do some functional skills. And I think you're right. Hockey Canada's not, they're a high power, in terms of international hockey, but they're not dominant at every level like they were 10, 15 years ago, winning, 5 World Juniors in a row. There's other countries, not even talking about the States, but like look at the Swiss, medaling or coming 3rd, 4th, 5th and in international competition now. And Germany, no NHL players. That was a great example of the Olympics. Right. No NHL players. What happened? Germany is top 2 finisher. Like it's amazing to see. It's awesome, but I think it'll be really cool to see some other guys and spread the wealth a little bit. These guys are coming from all over Canada, so let's gain some kind of community knowledge and let's start spreading it out. And whether we're working with high level guys or working with minor hockey guys, let's get a community of people that are on the same page. That's exciting to me.
No, I think you're bang on. I think at the end of the day, for any skill coach out there, any coach out there, like, first of all, no one has a secret sauce.
No.
Like, as much as people think some of them do, they don't. And the more that we share, the better we get, the more we learn, who gets better? Hopefully the kids, right? Like, is that not the goal? Like if you're working with kids or coaching a team or you got camps going on in the summer, if you can bring some new stuff that you found on Instagram or Twitter or through somebody or talking, picking up the phone or emailing or going to something like this with the Hockey Canada skills coaching, like if you can get better at the end of the day, that's going to impact how you do your job on the ice or how you coach on the ice. And if those kids can get some of that knowledge and some of that new skill or some of that new technique, hopefully it makes them better, and I said this from day one when I did it was, I really hope that they keep it elite and not that anybody can't get into it, but the people that want to keep getting better, the people that want to keep getting better at how they teach and how they deliver technique and how they deliver hockey skills. Those are the people that we want, I think, involved, male and female, that are working with guys teams and girls teams and novice players to junior players to whatever. Right. And the better we can get our grassroots and the better we can get, the feet on the ground working with these grassroots, I think, we're going to hopefully over time, it's not going to happen right away, but we'll be able to start maybe generating, some better hockey players, down the road for sure.
And that's no question the forefront of why I want to do this or why I want to do any type of seminar or anything, whether it's coaching clinics and I'm at a coaching clinic or, we're teaching a coaching clinic, whatever it is. But there's always a selfish thing. You go back to Bo, like Bo wants to play. He wants to get better. He wants his team to do better, but he wants to play. He wants to play in the power play. He wants to play in the penalty kill. Well, yeah, selfishly, do you want to work with the NHL players and Oshie and Ovechkin? Yeah, of course you do.
For sure.
I selfishly, like you did it too, like doing this, get to work with, within Hockey Canada and work with some of these, whether it's the highlight, who knows, Team Ontario, guys, or you went out to the U18s out west last summer, I believe, right?
Yeah, U17s.
U17, sorry. Yeah. So for me, I'd loved an opportunity to there's lots of high level kids here for sure. We work with, it's awesome, but get a chance to, and for me, it's work with the kids, but if the high level kids are there, the high level coaches and instructors are there. So why wouldn't I want to be there and listening in a coaches meeting with, whoever that coach they brought in, some OHL coach and he's talking about whatever. Of course I want to be in that room and hearing what they have to say and offering my input on some guys and whatever. Like I want to improve too. I want to do the kind of experience some of those cool things. So there's definitely no, I don't think for the wrong reasons, but some selfish, like,
no, definitely. For sure. No, I think that's normal. And I think you need that. You want that motivation of like, hey, I want to, you get a good opportunity to work with pro players and junior players. And you've got that taste in your mouth of being able to work with those guys and influencing and impacting and helping them out, which is amazing. And you want to keep doing that. You want to get better at that. You want to maybe, something else translates out of it. Maybe it's more stuff with Hockey Canada or whatever it is. And I think having those goals and that motivation is part of it. I don't think any of us would be a good skills coach if we were just happy working with novice players every day. You know what I mean? You want to be able to work with that. I really enjoy working with young kids because it's a totally different mentality. It's fun. It keeps the game light. Yeah. But as you get up to that midget and that junior and that pro, like it's fun, man. You get to push a little bit more. You get to challenge them a little bit more. Some of the stuff you do, like you said earlier, like, whoa, he just pulled that off, or give him a bad pass. Like, hey, sorry about the bad pass. No, I should have had it. Yeah, you're right. You should have
You're
had
right.
it.
You're right.
Yeah. But I mean, it's great. And I think you'll, I mean, you're like, just the personality you have and the way you are, you're going to love it. It's going to be a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah. By the way, I need a week off. Yeah.
Oh yeah. About that. Sorry, you can't go. Well, listen, buddy, this was awesome, man. And we'll keep doing this because I want to get Max on and Wado too. And a couple of the other guys that we have here, but just talk about kind of skill development, some stuff that we got going on, like, which is awesome to chat about development camp and the Caps and obviously the Hockey Canada stuff, which is great too. So, but I think it's important for, especially young players out there that maybe are getting done their junior careers and not sure what they're going to do after hockey. Well, man, there's a whole other avenue of becoming a skills coach. You're getting involved in hockey schools. You're getting involved in academies now and helping run in those. Like, there's so much stuff that you can do with hockey, you know, whether it's refereeing. We know a bunch of guys are now getting into refereeing and making a good living being referees. Like, there's so many other avenues. And I think sometimes when you say skills coach, like, what is that? Like, I don't know, what do? You do skills on the ice with kids? Like, yeah, but there's also, you know, there's camps, there's academies, there's clinics, there's NHL gigs, there's OHL gigs, there's Hockey Canada stuff. Like, there's so much stuff out there, right? So I think giving a little bit of insight on some of that stuff is kind of fun for some of these parents and some of these kids that are not sure what they want to do or what their kid wants to do. And, you know, as they're rounding that 18, 19, 20, and maybe hockey's coming to a bit of an end, you know, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you get in touch with some of these guys in your area that are doing skills and chat with them a little bit, take them for coffee and see what they're doing and how could you get in? How could you figure this out, you know?
Absolutely.
And I would strongly recommend no one do it on their own because it's a grind.
For sure.
No, but if you're living in an area and you are 21 years old, 22, and you're done, you love hockey, and maybe you got a part-time job, full-time job, you're like, I really want to do hockey for a living. The way I would do it now is I would approach a guy or a girl that I know that comes highly recommended or, you know, is a good person and try to, you know, kind of help them out or get involved with them. And that'll save you a whole world of headaches and stuff going on, trying to get a business established and all this kind of stuff. Now, if you want to do it on your own, fill your boots, it could be great. But with how much competition there is out there now, I think it's nice to learn and kind of get just basically negate some of these, the pitfalls and the bad stuff and the mistakes that I made and
you
everyone's
did it
made.
20 years ago, you basically started from scratch, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's long.
Seems
No,
like a long
it's
time
probably
ago.
like, maybe 15, 16 years
Yeah.
old. Yeah.
And so
it's
I
long
was
enough. Yeah.
8-9 years ago, I was exactly what you're saying. Like, I didn't know, I really, not that old, but like, I didn't have necessarily a skills coach. You went to hockey school, you know, in quotations, like that was what you did. Now it's so many other things, like you're saying, so many other avenues. And I 100% agree with you because there's no chance that I would want to, you know, start this from the ground up. Find someone like you that brought me in, kind of showed me the ropes, taught me kind of the way to do things. I come up with my own ideas. We come up with stuff together. It was just the way to go.
Yeah. And I mean, if anyone wants to do it on their own, by all means, like, go ahead. But I mean, even still get a mentor, get someone that can help you. Like, get someone that can kind of maybe show you the ropes a little bit and help you. Like I said, avoid some of the stuff that just is costly, number one, and just the time suck and you know, kind of kills your energy. But maybe next time we get together, we'll chat about like how you're going to move in for a week and then you live with me for 9 months.
Yeah.
Boom. Boom.
Right. We'll have to bring Jen in.
Yeah, we'll bring Jen in.
Actually, won't bring Jen in.
No, we'll bring her in. It'll be great. Just carve me for an
Thanks,
hour.
buddy.
All right, buddy.
That's
Take
good.
care, man. All right.